Sargon II was an Assyrian king. Sargon II became the ruler of the Assyrian Empire in 722 BC after the death of Shalmaneser V. In his inscriptions, he styles himself as a new man, rarely referring to his predecessors. However, he took the name Sharru-kinu, after Sargon of Akkad, who had founded the first Semitic Empire in the region some 16 centuries earlier. Sargon is the biblical form of the name. Early reign. Sargon II was the son of Tiglath-Pileser III and appears to have seized the throne from his brother Shalmaneser V in a violent coup. Sargon was already middle-aged when he came to the throne, and was assisted by his son, the crown prince Sennacherib. Sargon's brother, Sennacherib, served as his grand vizier. Military campaigns. Sargon was beset with widespread rebellions by the beginning of his rule. Marduk-Pliadana II, a chieftain of the Chaldean tribes in the marshes of the south, declared himself king of Babylon and was crowned king in 721 BC. In 720 BC, Sargon and Marduk-Pliadana met in battle on the plains east of Babylon. Marduk-Pliadana was supported by Elam. The Elamite troops were able to push back the Assyrian army, and he retained control of the south and the title of King of Babylon. In 717 BC, the Syro-Hittite city of Carchemish on the upper Euphrates rebelled. Carchemish was a small kingdom situated at an important Euphrates crossing. Sargon violated existing treaties in attacking the city, but with the wealth seized was able to continue to fund his army. In 716 BC he moved against the Manyans, where the ruler Asa, son of Aranzu, had been deposed by Al-Asanu with the help of the Eurytions. Sargon took the capital Izirta and stationed troops in Paswash and Karnergal. He built new bases in Media as well, the main one being Haha, which he renamed Sharru-kinu. In 715 BC others were to follow: Karnabu, Karsin and Kanishtar, all named after Babylonian gods and resettled by Assyrian subjects. The eighth campaign of Sargon against Urartu in 714 BC is well known from a letter from Sargon to the god Ashur and the bas-reliefs in the palace. Sharru-kinu. The reliefs show the difficulties of the terrain. The war chariots had to be dismantled and carried by soldiers. The letter describes how paths had to be cut into the intractable forests. The campaign was probably motivated by the fact that the Urartians had been weakened by incursions of the Cimmerians, a nomadic steppe tribe. One Urartian army had been completely annihilated, and the general Kakadanu taken prisoner. After reaching Lake Urmia, he turned east and entered Zigurtu and Andia on the Caspian slopes of the Caucasus. When news reached him that King Ramses I of Urartu was moving against him, he turned back to Lake Urmia in forced marches and defeated a Urartian army in a steep valley of the Uraush, a steep mountain that reached the clouds and whose flanks were covered by snow. The battle is described as the usual carnage, but King Ramses managed to escape. The horses of his chariot had been killed by Assyrian spears, forcing him to ride a mare in order to get away, very unbecoming for a king. Sargon plundered the fertile lands at the southern and western shore of Lake Urmia, felling orchards and burning the harvest. In the royal resort of Ulhu, the wine cellar of the Urartian kings was plundered. Wine was scooped up like water. The Assyrian army then plundered Sanjibuti and marched north to Van without meeting resistance. The people, having retreated to their castles, fled into the mountains, having been warned by fire signals. Sargon claims to have destroyed 430 empty villages. After reaching Lake Van, Sargon left Urartu via Wash. In Habushkia he received the tribute of the Eri lands. While most of the army returned to Assyria, Sargon went on to sack the Urartian temple of the god Haldi and his wife Bagbat at Musizia. The loot must have been impressive. Its description takes up 50 columns in the letter to Ashur. More than 1 ton of gold and 5 tons of silver fell into the hands of the Assyrians, 334,000 objects in total. A relief from Sharru-kinu depicted the sack of Musizia as well. Musizia was annexed. Sargon claims to have lost only 1 charioteer, 2 horsemen and 3 couriers on this occasion. King Rusa was said to be despondent when he heard of the loss of Musizia and fell ill. According to the imperial annals, he took his own life with his own iron sword. In 713 BC, Sargon stayed at home. His troops took, among others, Kerala, Tabal and Cilicia. Persian and Mede rulers offered tribute. In 711 BC, Gergum was conquered. An uprising in the Philistine city of Ashdod, supported by Judah, Moab, Edom and Egypt, was suppressed, and Philistia became an Assyrian province. Conquest of Israel. Under his rule, the Assyrians completed the defeat of the Kingdom of Israel, capturing Samaria after a siege of 3 years and exiling the inhabitants. This became the basis of the legends of the lost 10 tribes. According to the Bible, other people were brought to Samaria, the Samaritans, under his predecessor Shalmaneser v. Sargon's name actually appears in the Bible only once, in the book of Isaiah, which records the Assyrian capture of Ashdod in 711 BC. Campaign against Babylonia in 710 BC. Sargon felt safe enough in his rule to move against his Babylonian arch-enemy Marduk-Pi-Eladana II. One army moved against Elam and its new king Shutanahunt II to prevent them from supplying aid to Marduk-Pi-Eladana. The other, under Sargon himself, proceeded against Babylon. Sargon first moved against Dur-Athara, which he renamed Dur-Nabu and made the capital of the new province of Gambalu. He then laid siege to Babylon, and Marduk-Pi-Eladana II fled. Sargon claimed that he entered Babylon at the request of the priests and civil servants. Babylon yielded to Sargon and he was proclaimed king of Babylonia in 710, thus restoring the dual monarchy of Babylonia and Assyria. He remained in Babylon for 3 years. In 709 BC, he led the New Year procession as king of Babylon. Marduk-Pi-Eladana attempted to flee to Elam, but the king forbade him entry, taking hostages from Uruk and other towns. He went to his ancestral city of Dur-Jakan, which he further fortified by adding to the walls and digging a canal from the Euphrates to flood the surrounding area. In 709 BC, Sargon's troops gained a victory outside the city but could not take Dur-Jakan, where Marduk-Pi-Eladana had fled. A negotiated settlement was reached whereby Sargon would spare Marduk-Pi-Eladana's life provided the city walls were demolished. It is not clear whether they were, since 2 years later, Sargon returned to take them down himself. Sargon had his son, Crown Prince Sennacherib, married to the Aramaean noblewoman Nakia, and stayed in the south to pacify the Aramaic and Chaldean tribes of the lower Euphrates as well as the Suti nomads. Some areas in Elam were occupied as well. Later reign. In 710 BC, the 7 Greek kings of Iowa had accepted Assyrian sovereignty. In 709, Midas, king of Phrygia, beset by the nomadic Cimmerians, submitted to Assyrian rule, and in 708 BC, Qumuhu became an Assyrian province. Assyria was at the apogee of its power. Urartu had almost succumbed to the Sumerians, Elam was weakened, Marduk-apla-Adana was powerless, and the Egyptian influence in the Levant had been thwarted. Building projects Sharru-kinu was constructed as a new capital city by Sargon II shortly after he came to the throne in 721 BC. The city measured about a square mile in area. It was enclosed within a great wall of unbaked brick pierced by 7 gates. Protective genies were placed on either side of these entrances to act as guardians. The palace was richly decorated with relief-carved stone slabs. The land in the environs of the town was taken under cultivation, and olive groves were planted to increase Assyria's deficient oil production. The town was of rectangular layout and measured 1760 by 1,635 meters. The length of the walls was 16,280 Assyrian units, corresponding to the numerical value of Sargon's name. The town was partly settled by prisoners of war and deportees under the control of Assyrian officials, who had to ensure they were paying sufficient respect to the gods and the king. The court moved to Sharru-kinu in 706 BC, although it was not completely finished. Death. In 705 BC, Sargon fell while driving the Sumerians from ancient Iran, where they were attacking Sargon's Persian and Median vassals. They later ravaged the kingdoms of Urartu and Phrygia, before being finally subdued by the Assyrians. Sargon was succeeded by his son Sennacherib. Bibliography. Victor Avedor Horowitz, Shutting Up the Enemy. Literary gleanings from Sargon's 8th campaign in Mordecai-Kogan and Danel Khan. Treasures on Camels' Humps. Historical and literary studies from the ancient Near East presented to Israel Afal. Albert N. I. Kolmsted. Western Asia in the Days of Sargon of Assyria.